My first question is about the time frame it takes to develop the desired immune response. All of the commentary thus far is about the sequence of getting the vaccine and the number of doses required. No one, to include the manufacturers, has shared with the public how long after the vaccination does the body develop the desired immune response. With most vaccines, it takes approximately 2 weeks. The second question is, during the trials, did anyone develop symptoms of the virus between the first and second doses while the immune system was ramping up? Additionally, did anyone develop symptoms during the 2-week period after the last dose? This information is critical, and the public must be educated in that the immune response is not instantaneous. All personnel administering the vaccine should be required to pass this information to each person they vaccinate. Thank you, and stay safe.
Dr. Fauci?
Okay, so both of the vaccines that we're talking about, the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine, are what's called a prime boost. One injection followed in 4 weeks by another injection, 28 days. So what you have is you get some degree, not optimal, but some degree of immunity a couple of weeks after the first dose. That's not optimal. After the second dose, you get optimal immunity anywhere from 7 to 10 days after the second dose. When you look at the clinical trial, the data and the efficacy was so high, 94 to 95%, that there were very, very few people who got vaccinated who actually did get infected and did get symptoms. Obviously, the ones who did not get the vaccine would get symptoms the normal 5-6 days after they were infected. But if an individual fails the vaccine, you would expect them to get symptoms within the same time frame as if they were not vaccinated, maybe a couple of days later, delayed because of a partial immune response. All that data is available, and those kinds of things are made known to individuals when they prepare them for the vaccine and when they take an informed consent in the trial. Once a vaccine is approved, there is a list of all the potential side effects of the vaccine itself, but not the information that the person just mentioned about if you happen to get infected, when you would start to get symptoms. That's very well known. The incubation period is 2 to 14 days with a median of about 5 days.
You know, you can get immunity, as you're talking about, Dr. Fauci, by getting the infection or getting the vaccine. Is the expectation that people who receive the vaccine will have longer or stronger immunity versus people who got that immunity via infection?
Sanjay, that's a great question. It really is, because that's what we used as the parameter of how potent the immune response is. If you look at the vaccine, the level and quality of neutralizing antibodies was comparable to and even better than what you see in convalescent plasma of people who actually were infected and developed an immune response. It's at least as good as the response associated with natural infection.
So, Doctor, 2 senior administration sources telling CNN that the CDC will soon reduce the number of quarantine days from 14 to possibly 10 or maybe even 7 days with a negative test. Do you think more people will follow the rules if they have to quarantine for a shorter amount of time?
I think they will follow the quarantine rules. Remember when the 14-day quarantine was set up, it was very early into the pandemic when we had less information than we do today. And if you actually look at the studies that address when does someone actually become infectious and have clinical signs and symptoms after having been exposed, we see that most of that does occur within those first 7 days. So if one is following someone for 7 days versus 14, and then particularly if you have a negative test, that really is likely to have a much more positive impact than people who say, well, I can't do 14 days, so they really don't do any at all. And so I think this is a smart move, and it will help us.
Is the vaccine safe for all ages and all races? Well, the way that these trials work is that tens of thousands of people receive the vaccine as part of the trials, but then ultimately billions of people are going to receive them in the general population. So we need to collect more and more data, and that's going to happen over the years to come. What we can say for certain at this point is that if the data holds up, it does appear to be very effective and safe within the first 2-month period. What are the potential side effects if I take this vaccine? This is important. Just because a vaccine is safe doesn't mean that there won't be potentially side effects. And they can really make you feel miserable for a couple days. Sore arm, feeling very tired and run down. That's your immune system really kicking into gear. Do we know if the vaccine is going to have any long-term side effects? Well, the short answer is no. And the only way you can really know that is with the passage of time. What we do know is these companies provided 2 months of safety data on their vaccines. 2 months, because that's when most adverse effects occur, if they're going to happen at all. Are they injecting me with some of the virus in the vaccine? Such an important question, and it's important to realize how this particular vaccine works. You're not getting virus or even deadened virus or weakened virus. In fact, what you're getting is genetic code of a portion of the virus. So there's no way that you can actually get infected from the vaccine itself. I'm worried that the vaccine is being rushed out. Did they make it too fast? Well, what typically takes years for vaccine development only took months this time around. But it still went through the checks and balances. It went through clinical trials. It is now being reviewed by FDA scientists. When we get that data back, we'll have a really good idea. Is this effective and is it safe, at least in the short term? Can I go back to normal after receiving the vaccine? Well, that in part depends on how you define normal. I think for a period of time in this country, we're still going to be wearing masks because not everyone will be vaccinated at the same time. You need time to really build up that herd immunity and make it tough for the virus to still live and spread within a community. We also don't know if the vaccine will actually prevent infection and transmission or if it simply prevents people from getting sick. These are still open questions that hopefully will be answered in the weeks and months to come.